This was already a very interesting game this weekend, but I think this game has become even more interesting with this sacking of Nuno Espirito Santo, which has brought Ange Postecoglou back into the Premier League and back into Nottingham Forest. And it's going to be very interesting to see how Forest set up away at Arsenal, because if it was Nuno, it would have been very obvious. It would have been a very much a low block and hit teams on the counter, because that is what Nuno has done against pretty much every side in the Premier League and definitely the top sides. But now Ange Postecoglou comes in, it's more of a question of how does Ange set up? Does he continue with that sort of system of sitting in and breaking and hitting teams on the counter, which I actually think would probably be more effective away at Arsenal? I think they need to be conservative and look to try and sort of win the game 1-0, or maybe even just sort of hope for a draw and see what comes from that. I think that's sort of how they should be setting up to win this game. But is that how Ange Postecoglou is going to set up? I'm not convinced. I can see Ange Postecoglou going with a very attacking system still and looking to actually set his sort of foot right down at the start and playing that high line and looking to press. If they do that, I really do think they will lose this game. But I do sort of still think, is there a chance Ange decides to just sort of go with what Forrest knows? And I think that's what he should do. And I think a selection that would really help, no matter what team he selects, is Sangare. I think there's sort of an argument that you could go Anderson, Louise, and Gibbs White for an Ange system. And I think they'll need this to steal with Sangare, just a big holding midfielder, and I think that will really help Forest defensively in this game. However, I don't see this happening, and I think Arsenal will probably score early and then sort of score a couple more goals later on in the game, and they will win this game 3-0 and start their campaign after the international break very well.